Well, good morning, my GBS warrior family. Um, I got cut off yesterday and I wasn't feeling too well. And then I had to go down for an MRI. Um, so, sorry about that. But I wanted to continue the story this morning. And I'll probably do a video this evening if I get interrupted again this morning. I have doctors coming in and out of the my room all day. So, as I was saying, it was probably the most terrifying thing in my life to one day be fully healthy, walking around, working, everything, and then the next day confined to a hospital bed in a wheelchair. So after I get to Virginia Hospital Center and the doctor asks me and my family, had we heard of GBS? And my husband explained all of that that happened at the other hospital. She told me, she said, well, I have to start the treatment today because the night before, like I said, I had urinated in the bed and I became completely incontinent because it moved up to right up under my breastbone. So she started the treatment that day, and I will never forget her name. Her name is Dr. Rizvani. And she said, if I'm not better after the treatment in 4 weeks, they would have to give me another treatment. So she gave me the treatment, and the treatment is IVIG. So it's pretty much donated aminoglobins from people. So I got that, and it became a waiting game after that. Um, I lived the next 6 months after that in the hospital. Um, I went from Virginia Hospital Center to Washington Hospital Center I was just all over the place. I think I went to probably about 5 hospitals and I ended up at Johns Hopkins. Johns Hopkins has a unit, or if you want to call it a department, that studies this disease. Now, why they are not making more people aware of it, I don't know. But I feel like that is my calling and my purpose to make people aware. I probably will be writing a book in a few when I can, when I'm healthier and I can do that. But like I said, if you have any questions that you want to ask me, put them in the comment section below and I will look at them and answer them live on video. And I will try to answer everybody's questions because I know it's a lot and to take in because you probably never heard of it before and you probably never seen someone with it before. But when I went to Johns Hopkins, I saw a lot of people because on my unit, that's all it was, people that had GBS. And it was children, older people, younger people, midlife people, but they have like the most state of the art things to try to stimulate those muscles and those nerves pretty much because it attacks your nerves. It's pretty much, it's an autoimmune disease. So it is most favorable to if you had AIDS, but it doesn't kill you in the same way. And believe me, the disease can kill you. The way that it can kill you is if it pretty much paralyzes your whole body. So if mine would have moved up anymore, I would have been on a ventilator. I could have went into a coma, or I could have just died, because once it travels up to your lungs, to your heart, it destroys all of those nerves that make your heart work, that make your lungs work. So if that doctor had not done what she did that day, I would have definitely been in a worse off situation because it was moving faster. So I really, really thank her. And I, I'm going to go when I can get better and drive and do all those things. Um, I'm going to go to Virginia Hospital Center and find her so that she can see me and see that I'm walking and everything. But while at Virginia Hospital Center, I have to back up. I was put into a rehab center, which is on the basement floor of the hospital. And just a little FYI, I worked at Virginia Hospital Center when I was doing my residency for my medical degree. So I knew this hospital to be a great hospital from working there. But I had never been there as a patient. And I only worked in one department, which was respiratory. So when I got down to the rehab, it was like I, I want to say they were trying to rush me pretty much to get better. Um, I did have physical therapy every single day, probably about 3 times a day. I had, what you call it, not physical therapy, but something else. I can't think of it right now. But it was pretty much physical therapy too, where they pretty much teach you how to function at your house when you go back home, how to, because I was going to be confined to a wheelchair, how to, maneuver your wheelchair, how to slide from your bed to onto the wheelchair, how to get from the wheelchair onto the bed or onto the toilet or onto the shower bench or any of those things. So those are things that they came in and they were teaching me every day. So they told me that I would go home in a month. But instead, I was sent home by a different doctor, and I was only down there for 2 weeks. So I didn't agree with it, of course, and my family didn't agree with it, but hey, what can you do? So they sent me home with no aid. I was confined to my upstairs bedroom, bed. The commode was sat at my bedside when my husband had to go to work. And I was there to fend for myself. He brought a microwave upstairs because we have an extra one and brought me some stuff that, I like to eat upstairs. And we had a little refrigerator. And so I was able to lean over to get the stuff out of the refrigerator, put it in the microwave. Um, I had water, I had Crystal Light because I love Crystal Light. And so I was left to fend for myself. And I did that. I was at home probably about, I want to say, 2 weeks by myself because the hospital did not coordinate to have me an aide at home to take care of me. Um, and what happened next was just a shocker to me, to my family. I mean, that whole situation was shocking. So meanwhile, while I'm fighting and calling my doctors and doing, and remind you again, I had Kaiser insurance. I was calling my Kaiser doctor, and she was sending um, emails now. Now, my Kaiser doctor, I will not take anything away from her. She was a great doctor, and she advocated for me to until she left Kaiser because she said that she couldn't ethically work for Kaiser anymore because of the things that she saw and the things that they did. So I went on to just keep calling her, calling my case manager, like, what's going on? Why don't I have an aide? Um, so within, I was at home 2 weeks by myself. And one day I was trying to get onto the potty chair from the bed, and it tipped over, and I tipped over, and half of my body was hanging off the bed. I could not get myself back up because remember, I'm still paralyzed from my upper torso down. So I was hanging that way for about 30 something minutes, and all the blood had rushed to my head. And when my husband came home, that's how he found me. So he called the ambulance, and they picked me up and took me to Mary Washington Hospital. Mary Washington Hospital said that they were not under Kaiser. So Kaiser wanted me transported back to Virginia Hospital Center. So, which they did. I went back to Virginia Hospital Center, and they put me in rehab again. And I said, you know what? I'm just tired of this. I'm tired of the back and forth. I'm tired of going to this hospital, that hospital, and nobody, it's like nobody can help you. It's like you're just waiting on, I don't know, waiting to, for me, it was like I was just waiting to die. Like nobody would help me. Nobody would do anything for me. And that's how what I felt like. I was like, nobody's trying to help me get better. And so my husband and my family, they were so frustrated with these hospitals because they're like, regardless if she has Kaiser or whatever, I should be getting a certain amount of care that I wasn't getting. And strictly, I strictly could only see Kaiser doctors. And um, my family didn't like that either because they're like, if there's a doctor in this hospital that knows better than a Kaiser doctor, then why can't she see that person? And so moving on, my husband had it, and he was like, you know what, if they don't send you John Hopkins, I'm just going to come and discharge you and take you myself. So that's what he did. He came to the hospital. He told them, look, discharge my wife. I'm taking her to John Hopkins. And that's what he did. And we sat in John Hopkins emergency waiting room for 12 hours for me to get into John Hopkins. It was so packed. So many people go there for different reasons, and they go through the emergency department. So once they figured out that I what I was there for and I went into triage, then I mean right then they got a room for me. Right then I saw, when I was in the emergency department, I think probably about 5 doctors, and in less than an hour of me being in the emergency room, they said that they were going to admit me. And then I went upstairs. When I first went upstairs, I saw they had a team of doctors that saw me. So they all came in at once. They all introduced themselves and what department they were in and what they would pretty much be working on with me. And that I would see them every single day, maybe twice a day, to get an update on what they were going to do and, what the outcome was of what they did, etc., etc. So this happened every single day. And they used some state of the art stuff that I had never seen. Plus, they had a nice rehab there. So I went every day down to another department in the hospital. The hospital is huge, by the way, but it's very, very nice, and especially their kids' wing. So I went down to this part of the hospital and I saw this doctor. I don't even know what type of doctor he is or was or whatever, but every day he would stick needles in my legs and do different things. And he explained to me that he would do that with like soldiers that had like limbs missing, and they had it's something that's called phantom pain, where if you don't have a limb, sometimes you feel pain in that area where you would have a limb, but you don't have it. It's not there. So it's kind of all in your mind. But you feel the pain as if your leg was there or your arm was there or your finger or whatever. So he said he used it a lot with those soldiers, and then they started to experiment. They're like, well, hey, if we can do it with soldiers that have phantom pain, then we can do it with people that are paralyzed. And he explained to me, he was like, because when you're paralyzed, you lose your senses in that area. So everybody knows the five senses. We were taught probably in kindergarten: your sight, your hearing, your smell, your taste, your touch. So it would replace that sense of touch, because you can't feel anything, with auditory, so that you can hear it, so that you can hear your muscle working even though you can't feel it. You can't move your legs or your feet, or depending upon who it is, your arms or your hand. So he would stick these needles in my legs in certain parts. They're like really, really, really tiny needles. If you ever had like acupuncture or dry needling or anything like that, They're really, really small needles, but they're connected to a electrode, and it the electrode would go to the computer. And so he would tell me to close my eyes. So I would close my eyes, and then he would say, okay, think about bringing your foot towards you. So I would think about it, and then a couple of minutes, seconds later, I'm not going to say minutes, you would hear the machine staticking. And the more I thought about it, the more the machine would static. So I knew then that, okay, we're on one step closer, because my brain is actually connecting to that nerve, but my foot is just not responding. So he did that with both of my legs. And every single day I had to do that. And then after that, they said it was just a waiting game. So they came in one day and said, that's all, that we can do for you here, since I was already treated with the IVIG. They said now you're just going to need, extensive physical therapy. So they sent me to a inpatient rehab called Encompass, which it used to be Health South in Fredericksburg, which was closest to my house at the time because I was living in Stafford, Virginia. So I get there, and I immediately, I don't even know, I think it was the same day or either the very next morning when I started, like, in physical therapy is a grueling process. It's all day long. You have physical therapy, and then you have, it's occupational therapy, where they teach you, how to function at home. And so every day I went to physical therapy, grueling, grueling physical therapy. First it was, you know, in my wheelchair. Then they gradually move you up. And the point is to have you at least up and walking on a walker when you leave there. So I started that journey there at Encompass. I will finish later with you guys. Thank you for watching. Please share this video and like this video along with the other videos. I'm going to start putting my Facebook up and my Instagram up, and I'm going to share a video of me when I was leaving Encompass, leaving the rehab hospital. That's all they do. It's a rehab hospital for whoever needs rehab. And I'll show you that video. I'll post it on a post so that you can see when I was able to get up and walk on a walker. Now, I couldn't walk far, but I got up out of the wheelchair and was able to walk from the wheelchair on the walker to my car to get in. So, like I said, like, share, and subscribe to my channel and these videos, and share them with everybody that you know, because awareness needs to be brought. There is so many people that are not aware. There's so many people that get misdiagnosed, and I want to reach as many people as possible so that they can be prepared and they can do preventative measures. And that's my ultimate goal. All right, Goodbye. I will talk to you guys later. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Smooches.